It's 3 weeks ago. You're walking through the kitchen and you don't see her. Your shoe lands square on her tail. She yelps. You apologize 10 times. She forgives you in 20 seconds, the way she always does. But here's the question that should bother you. Does she actually forget? Or does some part of her brain file that moment away, exactly like yours would? It turns out the answer changes depending on which neuroscientist you ask, and the parts they agree on are stranger than you'd expect. Most of the internet will tell you dogs live in the moment. They don't hold grudges. They don't dwell. They forgive instantly. That's the answer you'll find on the first 10 articles you click. It skips the actual science. Because over the last 15 years, neuroscience has been quietly mapping what dogs actually remember about us. The picture is stranger than the cliché. Not because they remember more, because they remember differently. Start with the paw moment. In 2016, a research team at Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest, led by Claudia Fugazza, adapted something called the do as I do task. The setup is simple. A researcher performs an action, opens a drawer, rings a bell. The dog watches, then a delay, then the cue. Do it. The dogs could replicate the action up to 24 hours later. They were retrieving the specific event from memory. That capacity has a name, episodic-like memory. It means dogs aren't just running on trained habit. They're storing specific events in time, the way you store the moment your sister told you something 6 months ago. Real recall. Which is where the paw incident gets interesting. Because dogs don't store unpleasant events the way you do. They don't store them as a confrontation. They store them as a sensory imprint. The color of your shoe, the texture of the kitchen tile, the pitch of your voice afterward. That entire cluster gets filed together. Months later, your dog might pause walking past that exact tile with no idea why. The moment isn't being remembered, the pattern is. This is what scientists call associative encoding, and dogs are exceptional at it. In some ways, better than humans. But it explains why apologizing didn't really fix it. The apology was filed too, just not the way you thought. Behavior 2. Your face and your voice. In 2007, Akiko Adachi at Kyoto University ran an experiment that should have made bigger headlines. She played dogs a recording of a voice, sometimes their owners, sometimes a stranger's. Then a face appeared on screen, sometimes their owners, sometimes a stranger's. The dogs looked longer at the face when the voice and the face didn't match. They were detecting the mismatch, which means in your dog's head, your voice and your face are linked, stored together, not as separate inputs, as one identity. Adachi called this cross-modal mental representation. It means when your dog hears you in another room, they're not just hearing human, they're already picturing you, the specific you, voice, face, smell, wired into a single mental file marked this one. That file doesn't decay easily. Even after weeks of absence, dogs in attachment studies show recognition responses within seconds of reunion. The memory of you isn't fading in the background, it's permanent storage. Behavior 3. The tone of your voice when you were angry. In 2014, Attila Andics and his team at Eötvös Loránd published an fMRI study in Current Biology. They scanned dogs and humans listening to the same sounds in the same scanner. Same machine, same protocol. They found that dogs have voice-sensitive brain regions in roughly the same area as humans, right hemisphere temporal cortex, same neural real estate, and the activation pattern wasn't generic. The emotional valence of the voice, angry, happy, sad, registered in a region that responded specifically to that valence. They weren't just hearing your tone, they were filing it, which means the time you raised your voice, even if it was justified, even if you calmed down inside a minute, got stored as an emotional flag attached to your voice specifically. That doesn't mean she fears you now. It means a small fragment of that pattern is on file, and it can surface, briefly, when your voice goes sharp again. Behavior 4. The schedule. You come home around 6 on Tuesdays. Your dog knows. Most owners assume this is reflex. It isn't. Researchers studying canine cognition have documented that dogs build internal models of their owners' routines that go beyond simple conditioning. They time anticipatory behaviors, moving to the door, growing alert near feeding hour, to within minutes of the actual event, even on weekends. Even when you shift the schedule subtly, they recalibrate. This isn't just biological clock. It's a memory of you specifically, layered over time. Studies on dogs separated from owners for varying lengths of absence have shown the longer you've been gone, the more enthusiastic the greeting. The dog isn't just responding to your return. They're processing the duration of the absence. The longer it was, the more intensely they signal. Their memory for time isn't a stopwatch. It's a felt sense of how long you've been gone. And underneath that, they keep score. Behavior 5. And this one is the most controversial. In 2009, Frederica Ranga at the University of Vienna ran a study where she tested dogs in pairs. Both dogs were asked to perform the same simple trick, give paw, but only one was rewarded. The unrewarded dog would eventually refuse to participate, just stop offering the paw. The dogs weren't just reacting to losing their treat, they were tracking the relative outcome. They were filing the fact that I did the same thing she did. She got food, I didn't. That pattern persisted across sessions. When researchers brought the same dog back days later, the resistance was already there. They remembered being shorted. Ranga called it inequity aversion. It's the same cognitive structure that drives fairness intuitions in primates and human toddlers, which means dogs do, in some functional sense, remember when something hasn't been fair. Not as injustice, they don't have the concept, but as a stored expectation that something didn't add up the way it should have. Here's where I have to be honest. Researchers genuinely disagree about whether what we just described is true memory in the way you'd recognize it. Some, like Fugazza and Adachi, argue dogs have episodic-like recall of past events. Others say it's all sophisticated associative learning that just looks like memory from the outside. The question isn't fully settled, but here's what's certain. Whatever your dog remembers about you, it doesn't look like a story. There's no narrative in their head, no replay. What there is a constellation of imprints. The shoe pattern on your foot, the pitch shift in your voice, the way the doorway smells when you walk through, the exact rhythm of feeding time. And underneath all of it, a category labeled simply this one: your face, your voice, your scent, fused into a single mental object that doesn't fade easily. The paw incident is in there somewhere, filed, not as accusation, as data. The kitchen tile probably gets a slight tension every time. The shoe might too. But you also got filed 10,000 times as the warm one, the one who feeds, the one who comes back. The math, in their head, isn't even close. Quick question for the comments. What's something you're sure your dog remembers about you that surprised you when you noticed it? Drop it below. I'm reading replies.